Okay, let me just read this first. Here, stand over here. Good morning. This is Bruce Patterson, Chairman of the Garwood Historical Committee. It is March 3rd, 2017, and I am sitting here with Pat DeFabio, longtime resident of Garwood, and Mayor George Casabona, who was councilman and then mayor of Garwood in the late 50s, early 60s. Mayor George presently lives in Scotch Plains and still attends the volunteer fire department meetings. In addition, in attendance is his daughter, Ann Kettles. This is the first and hopefully a series of interviews that may be recorded either by video or voice for the historic, somewhat groundbreaking project our committee calls Garwood Legacy in Video series, aka Garwood Lives. This series of recordings will be archived in the library for anyone who would like to know about Garwood's past and peoples. For this project, we plan to interview dignitaries, people of importance, and those that are involved with making of the history of Garwood and what we come to know today. People involved will be government related, such as Mayor Casabona today, those who built out our infrastructure, created social programs and organizations, and even those that have fond memories of Garwood and want to tell their story of family and community. The 50s and 60s were an important period for Garwood. We had the building of the Little League field, the creation of the Center Street underpass, the possible Garwood pool, the skating rink, the attempts to move Borough Hall over to what is now called the Casal complex. Items local and even not local will be discussed. Mayor Casabona was involved in some of these milestones and issues and graciously offered to tell the story of Garwood back then and how he was involved. Pat DeFabio will be the interviewer since they are longtime friends and both volunteer fire department members. I introduce here Mayor Casabona.
How do you do?
And Pat DeFabio.
Hi.
Here with the interview. Gentlemen.
George, how are you?
Fine, Pat.
It's good
Nice
to
to
see
see
you.
you.
Yeah, it's been a long time that we haven't seen each other, but we see each other every Wednesday at the meetings.
That's for sure.
At this time, George, we want to ask you a few questions about how you felt when you were mayor. A little background of where you were born and grew up, and excuse me, I can't see too good.
It's all right.
When did you move to Garwood? Why? Where in Garwood did you move?
Well, I was born, Pat, in Buffalo, New York, October the 12th, 1927. And I moved to Garwood when I was 7 years old. I attended St. Michael's Parochial School and graduated there in 1940. After that, my mother and I moved to Garwood, New Jersey, and I attended the Springfield Regional High School from 1941 till 1945.
Jonathan Dayton?
Jonathan Dayton Regional High School, and right after that I enlisted in the Navy.
And how did you get into politics and move up into politics ladder? How did you move up into the
Up the ladder?
ladder?
Well, first of all, after graduating high school, I joined the Navy and for 3.5 years and served in the European theater aboard the USS Little Rock. And after my stint, I came to Garwood at 1948 and joined the Democratic Club in Garwood, New Jersey. And after joining the club, after a year, they asked me to be a committee man for the 2nd District, which I did run for and won. After serving as a committee man, the Democratic Party asked me to run for council, which I did. We went door-to-door campaigning in Garwood,
That was one of my
which was a normal thing to do in those days, in the late 50s. And I ran with then the former Mayor William Severidge.
Yes.
We were on the ticket together and we won.
Senior.
And that was in 1955.
What were some of the issues as councilman that you addressed?
Well, some of the issues I had when I was a councilman were the overflooding of the brook, the train running across the center of town, and a playground or a baseball field for the Little League kids.
What was the opposition when you were working there, how was the opposition party? What was it like working against the opposition?
Well, we were oppositions while we were looking for office, but once the election was over, we all mended together. That was one good thing about Garwood. Republicans and Democrats worked together to try to make the town a better place to
Yes, I
live.
remember that very well. You guys did a good job.
And when the residents of Garwood were active, did they come to council meetings?
When there was ever an issue, we usually had a full crowd in the borough hall whenever there was an issue. When there wasn't an issue, we were lucky you had maybe 5 or 10 faithful people attending. And maybe Bruce could even attend to that, because I do know that he does attend some of those meetings.
Every meeting.
Every meeting.
Except the last one. I missed the last one.
What was any cross involvement with the Board of Education?
We never got involved with the Board of Education, other than when the Board of Education is a separate entity, and if a budget was defeated, then it was turned over to the mayor and council to make a decision whether to leave it as such or to cut it. And that was as far our status was as a mayor and council.
Did you cut it more often than leave it?
No, most of the times we left it.
You left it.
Where were you when JFK was assassinated, and how did Garwood?
In the 60s, when JFK was assassinated, I was in my living room watching TV. That was in late November.
63.
I think the year was around 1962 or 3. I just don't recall the year. And got the news. Walter Cronkite was the narrator at that time, and he came across on the TV to say that the president, unfortunately, was assassinated in Dallas, Texas.
Did Garwood memorialize President Kennedy in any fashion?
The Garwood attended the funeral mass that was held by the Church of St. Anne, had a replica of a coffin designating JFK, and later on in the year a park on the north side of town was installed, and his name was engrossed into that area as the JFK Plaza.
George, do you remember the underpass when we used to have cars used to?
On the underpass that
Before it was started,
before it was started, many mayors prior to me had tried to get the underpass made. Unfortunately, they did not succeed. But finally, the state and the Jersey Central Railroad agreed to build it at no cost to Garwood, other than our engineering cost. And that was completed, and mainly the reason we wanted to get that railroad crossing eliminated was that it was very dangerous for the children living on the south side or north side to cross over those tracks on foot, other than climbing up a trestle, which Pat would attest to that he had to do many times crossing that railroad track. So it was finally finalized in 1963, I believe was the year, and dedicated in May of, I forgot the year, 63.
63, right.
And I believe your son, my brother, was the first person down in the first car, am I correct?
Yes, my son was the first person to go underneath that railroad track with the police chief's car.
Who was the police chief?
At that time was Freddie Falzone.
Falzone, yeah. That's right. You remember Chief Ashfield?
No, I don't remember Chief Ashley. I
He was
remember Pat Kaminsky, the sergeant.
Dennis Kaminsky.
Dennis Kaminsky,
Yes.
the sergeant.
Yeah, he.
Right.
And Mr. Brewer, what was he? Lieutenant Brewer. It was 3 of them when I.
Yeah, I don't remember all
That's
of them.
all we had. We had three officers.
Yeah. Yeah, 3, and today we got what?
Dennis, holy, 16.
I think today we have 16.
16.
16 officers.
Back then you had
police
3.
George, you remember when the trains used to go by, when the gates went down? Did you hear of any accidents or see? Because I saw, I thought.
No, I never saw any. I've heard of the accidents, but I never saw any. I didn't move to Garwood, like I said before, until 1941, so that was prior prior to my time, I believe.
Where did you live in Garwood?
In Garwood, I lived first on South Avenue at 635 South Avenue, right across where it used to be the Magnus Chemical Company there. And then from there we moved down to 2nd Avenue, 98 2nd Avenue, next to Fred Way, who was a carrier for moving materials.
And ultimately, where did you end up in Garwood?
And ultimately met my wife, the former Angelina Patetta, from Roselle Park, and met her in 1952, and we got married in 1953, and we moved into a home in Garwood on Hazel Avenue, 326 Hazel Avenue, and we lived there from 1953 till 1999, 2000. Unfortunately, she passed away, and then moved to Scotch Plains.
There's a question about the Magnus building. Do you know how Garwood went about buying the Magnus building? Are you familiar with that?
Oh no, it's
No,
the Alcoa building.
no, they also had the Alcoa building. That's out of our hands. That was a private sale from the Alcoa to Casali Industries. The town had nothing to do with that.
Yeah, I thought the town actually owned the Alcoa building for maybe 6 months or so.
We owned it, but then we
I think
relinquished it to, I believe it was Casali Industries.
yeah, but
I think they're still there, aren't they?
yeah,
Yeah,
Or-
they're out of business.
Tiller was mayor at the time, or
Mayor.
freehold or whatever. But I know
I don't
that's
remember
a-
that part, but
Yes, I do remember that, and then we would have had that building that night. We still have
it was a white elephant, that's all it was.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hey Dad, can you tell us what Garwood was like in the 50s and 60s? And maybe any thoughts on how Garwood is different from then as it is now?
Well, in the 50s and 60s, of course, a long time away, the people were just as nice as they are today. You have some people who are very disturbed of some of the items that came to pass, such as I wanted to build a municipal building on the north side of town, whereas I went out and spoke to a member of organizations, Women's Club, the First Aid Squad, a lot of the organizations in Garwood. And the Republican councilmen were all with me in that case. And it would have cost the people $7 a year for this building that the mayor and council was proposing. It was a $320,000 cost. But unfortunately, when it went on to referendum, it was defeated by the people of Garwood.
Where was it?
Unfortunately,
Where's it going to be located?
it was going to be located right opposite the First Aid Squad. And I think that was the main reason they turned it down. They felt that there'd be too much of interference with a firehouse and Borough Hall with the school, Lincoln and Franklin School, right across the street.
They have a liquor. They had the liquor.
Pardon?
The bar they had there across the street from that.
Right. They had a
Oakland House?
Scandia Tavern or a bar, whatever they call it. Now it's the Westwood.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
George, what was your favorite memories of Garwood, and was your proudest moment achievement?
Well, I guess the proudest achievement would be the completion of the overpass, which took many, many years to accomplish. And when it was accomplished, I was grateful for that, because I knew at that time that now at least our children in the cars would be safe getting from one side of the town to the other. Before, the town was divided, and now with that overpass, it was free range from north side to the south side and vice versa. And also the building of our post office, we can't forget that,
No.
which was put in the honor of our former mayor, James Leonard.
Yeah.
That's quite
I don't recall the year of that.
It was 61,
Yeah.
96.
I think
Can't remember the year.
They built the post office in 61?
I think it was just about then. I didn't, but it was done
I think
under the former
yeah.
mayor.
They had a I think a four-family house in that area. They tore it down, and do you remember that?
Yeah.
It was a four family, huh?
Yeah, it's two and two,
Yeah.
and they tore it down and put the post office there. George, how was the crime back then, when you were crime?
How was
How-
the crime back then?
Crime, I only
with the
recall,
kids? And did we have bad kids? Which I say we never had bad kids.
never have any problem with the children at all.
We had good kids.
And I don't think Garwood had any crime, maybe one. As I remember, the police officer was Carmen Cusmano, who was shot,
Ooh.
but he survived. And that was the only incident that I ever remember happening in Garwood.
And that was right near Buddy Leonard's house.
Oh, really?
Buddy Leonard.
On Myrtle.
One of the family. I forget who the fellow was that shot Cosmano.
I don't recall.
No.
I remember, Dad, if you remember how back in the day we had Kennahan's, the little corner store Kennahan's that now is Lorenzo's Pizza, Lorenzo's
The sweet
restaurant.
shop.
Right.
Remember the sweet shop with the
Yeah.
penny candy?
Oh, boy.
And then we had Mr. Stouffer,
And you can't forget.
the bakery, Almar Bakery,
And the barber shop.
and the barber shop.
Adolf.
Mr. Stouffer, who owned the
Grossman.
delicatessen there in Garwood by Omar Bakery on the corner there where the Borough Hall is now. It was funny that in that area there, what we were saying about by that Omar Bakery. Oh, Mr. Stouffer was the air raid warden during the war.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Civilian defense we had
Yeah,
back then.
civil defense.
Yeah, and we
And
had
Mr. Stouffer was the,
and Mr. Micchio was too.
Mr. Micchio, who owned the vegetable stop across the street,
Right,
was also involved.
He lived next to me there.
Right.
With the Micchios.
Yeah, Patty Fabio lived, I believe, upstairs.
And Dr. Buckbinder lived next to
Right,
me.
Dr. Buckbinder.
And Crees were downstairs.
Cree's Luncheonette was on the corner.
And there was a restaurant under me. It was a little restaurant, believe it
Right.
or not. And then Murray, he was when he came back from the service, he had his office. They rented it.
Insurance office,
Yes.
Mr. Murray.
Yes.
Weren't there a couple other changes, like the Cranwood is no longer, and then there was like a grocery store next to Mr. Stouffer?
Well, when the Cranwood was demolished, it was taken over by Quick Check, which is still there, I believe. Then there was another store, a
Rose's?
liquor store or tavern there on North Avenue. I forgot the name of it.
That was Willie Kleeman.
Willie Clemens.
Yeah,
And then there was the Oakland House on the corner,
that's right.
right?
Right.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to remind you people is that we also, during our term, had the engineers brick up the
Bartholomew?
water that was flowing through the center of Willow Avenue.
Yes.
That waterway, we had the fence rocked in so that the rocks would not fall into the lake or the little river
The
that was
stream,
coming,
yeah.
the tributary that was coming in from Westfield. Sheet of wire mesh was put across the wall so that the rocks would not fall into the water,
Yeah.
and then the dirt come falling in and the houses would be eroded.
You're talking about Willow Avenue?
Willow and Myrtle there and all
Yeah,
that.
the Garwood Brook, you're saying. The
Yeah,
Garwood,
the Garwood Brook.
you put rocks along the,
They fortified the rocks
yeah. Oh, okay.
with the wire fencing.
Back in the 30s, late 30s, early 40s, we used to go from the Westfield Minnewaska Park. Do you remember the little falls that used to go? You ever go to Minnewaska Park?
No.
They had a platform, and they had a big tunnel. Water used to drain from Westfield through Garwood. We, as young rascals like James Materia and Augie Rentinelli, we used to go through that tunnel from Westfield. We went all the way underground to Seville's. That's where it ended up.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's the brook, right? Goes underground,
And
yeah.
when all the way under there, well, it's nuts. We see rats and raccoons under there.
Spiders, eh?
Oh, gee, that's a lot of
Yeah.
spiders.
What about the baseball field?
Yeah,
That was next.
Yeah,
question.
okay.
Next
There
question.
you go.
Little League field.
Yeah.
We were fortunate under the direction of the then Mayor Tiller, and I was on council to first dedicate the first Little League field in Garwood. It was named the James V. Guerrero Memorial Field
Right, exactly.
because he was very instrumental in doing a lot of the work and getting a lot of the men and women to help create that Little League field so that our children at that time could play.
He had 2 or 3 boys, Jimmy. I forget. I know Jimmy Greer had 2 sons or 3 sons.
I don't
think
remember how
3
many sons he had. All I
Yeah,
know
he had
it
3
was
sons, and I says, well, that gave him an incentive to, start something like that.
The
Which he
field.
did. He did a lot of
Yeah.
work.
Yeah,
In fact, there's a stone out there in center field attributing the mayor and council who dedicated that field.
Right, and we're going to try to get that stone.
Yeah, we're either going to try to move that stone, I was talking to you about that, up to the front so everybody can see it at the parking lot, or just move the plaque. I'd like to see that whole stone move,
whole
but
stone
Yeah,
should
put
be.
on if you put on a fork truck, if you borrow, I'm certainly sure the town has a fork truck.
yeah, that's how it got there.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's like an internal battle. Some
Yeah.
people want the stone, like Patsy and I.
Yeah.
Other people want just the plaque to be moved.
I think the
it-
stone.
The stone should be moved.
Oh, I mean, ultimately, the plaque is the important one because it has your name on it. And,
Yeah.
And you know,
It should. It's right now. It's enclosed. Nobody
Yeah.
sees what.
but that's one of our items on our list
Yeah,
of plans to
we
do.
could call Joe Raganese. He's got a backhoe. Pick that right up. and-
Yeah, it'll be so easy. I agree. I agree.
And what's her name's making a big deal out of it, and we don't want that. I want that stone over there, and you want it. So
I
let's-
want it.
and she wants to let's fight.
But we did take a photo of it and we put
Yes.
it in the rec complex in
Yeah.
your honor.
So, Daddy, do you know how the relocation from North Avenue to South Avenue to the south side of the baseball field came to be?
No, I don't remember that. All I do know is that the land was vacant, and we decided we used to play softball on where the Hess station is now.
Yes,
There used to be a softball field there
Wow.
where they used to play.
that's where we started.
Then the Hess took over the land, and that's when we decided to set up a playground for the kids.
Did you know that that same field, the fire department had a carnival?
Carnival.
Carnival. The fire department.
Oh, at the Little League.
North Avenue.
No, at
No,
North Avenue
North
where the
Avenue.
Hess station was.
That was
Oh,
all
okay.
cleared out, and we
Had a carnival there.
real big carnival. People came.
Yeah.
Because I remember every year when Daddy was at the firehouse, didn't you have a picnic every year?
Oh, picnic
with
was at the
clams?
Little League field, yes.
Yeah, yes.
I was the
Remember
official
that?
clam
Yeah, I
opener.
remember that.
Oh, was it?
Yep.
But that Pat Castellan ran that. Him and Eldrick and Frank Maroli, they all passed away now. But they,
Oh, yeah, that's way back.
They used to work hard on it, and the reason why they changed the field was because too many people were hitting home runs in the road and hitting Scandia, and
Yeah.
they were afraid they would get hit by
Yeah.
cars.
Oh,
So
okay.
that was one of the reasons we were going to have to find another place more safe. That's why it went on the south side.
Yeah. What was there? What was actually there where the new field
Was
is?
it just a plain field?
Just
Was it a
plain
dump
trees,
or-
No,
trees.
not a dump, no.
Just a lot of trees, and that's it.
Just
The
who-
dump used to, many years ago,
Was
they used to dump where the Little League field is now. To the left of where there was a pavilion there, that used to be a dump.
Oh,
And
that-
I remember
we had another dump too.
where was it a horse and wagon guy?
Yeah,
He used to go
Miller.
there and dump
Mr.
all
Miller,
the debris in there, and they used to cover it up.
Mr. Miller used to get the sand from Thatcher's with his horse and buggy. He had one horse, and
I remember that.
And they used to dump it, and they used to go up to the park. Any place he could find to dump it, they let him dump it. That's
Horse
just
and buggy?
Yeah.
one horse, and
What year was that?
Well, it was the early
That-
50s.
yeah, I worked at Thatcher's at 50. In the 50s, it was before me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, horses
they
It was
here.
in the 40s.
on South Avenue, across the street from Chinchar's Garwood Rest. Right across the street there, they had a cupola. They would dump all the sand in there. He would back at South Avenue, back his horse right
That's
in
where
there.
King's is now.
Right.
Yes, and he would dump it, and then he would take it and go all the way down the street. with it, go right down Center Street and then dump it right there.
Spread it around.
And spread it around in the park area, in the woods there, now where they have houses.
Yeah, back to the Little League field, Myrtle ends, and then you have the Little League field, then Myrtle starts again.
Willow, Myrtle.
Yeah, Myrtle. Was that other Little Myrtle, was that there, or was that built later on?
Myrtle Avenue's always was there.
Even that little part of Myrtle Avenue?
Yeah,
Towards
yeah,
Cranford?
it was always there.
It never changed.
Yeah.
So it never, Myrtle Avenue never went through, or?
No.
No.
Huh, it just ended in that field, you're saying?
Right.
That's odd. Who owned that, do you know who owned that offhand?
Houses? No, I don't remember.
All those trees and
It was
everything?
1960.
No, the land, the vacant.
The land.
Land. No.
The town did, right?
Must have been the town if you
Yeah,
were
the
able
town
to
owned it.
build on it.
I remember the town wanted to give us a piece of that property in back of the Knights of Columbus,
Yeah.
where they dumped, put all the leaves and stuff and broke. And they wanted to give us that property to put our firehouse there.
Yes, but where the Knights of Columbus is now, that land used to belong to the American Legion.
Yes.
And when the American Legion did not build or anything, the town took it back and turned it over to the Knights of Columbus.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm talking about way in the back, the next, on the other side of the road, like the parking lot and then
Yeah.
right next.
That's where the guard
fire
trucks go in
department, we
there.
were supposed to build there, we start chopping trees.
Right.
And then they change their mind. and-
Send all the wood chips down there too, the street department.
Yep. It was quite a thing we had going. And any memories of the police chief back then, or town clerk? How about Judge Leonard and the other mayors before?
Yeah, the administrators, you know.
Yeah, all administrators.
All the administrators back then was Andy Mosca was the town clerk, and then McDougal was the
I
secretary.
remember him, yes.
Bernie Steiner was the attorney. That's back in the 60s
I
now.
remember that.
Patty McGraw was the engineer.
Right, right.
The fire chief was Mr. Britton, was the fire chief then.
Tom Britton.
And then at that time, I also remember when I was mayor that there was no term for the fire chiefs. So I instituted a program and an ordinance that there should only be a fire chief for 2 years. This way, those who are underneath the fire chief, such as the captain and lieutenants, would have an opportunity to rise to that position. And I was fortunate enough to incorporate that during our administration.
Good.
And I being on there was very glad to see that. That was quite an ordeal to have him do that, because you can't have the same chief all the time.
Yeah.
So when we had the new guys for the 2 years, it was such a great thing. He did 1 year of work, and he improved it, and the other chiefs would see how he did. That's how we got what we are now.
Yeah, today it's 2 years.
Started with him, which he did.
You put it in there as an ordinance, okay.
And if you didn't bring that up, we'd probably still be knocking the same chief. He was pretty old. I remember.
Yeah, he was old.
I lived across the street. I have to tell you this. You're going to get a kick out of it.
In fact, they got his hat in the firehouse.
Oh, do they? Okay.
White hat, yeah, it's in there.
They had his car. He drove a little coupe Dodge.
Okay.
And I lived at the corner there. And the chief parked his car across the street from me. And the chief went into the firehouse. And a couple of wise firemen, Aldrich Maroli and Griffin, they got a can of green paint. They painted his car. When he came out, his car was...
Getting back to community affairs, I recall that in early 60s, I was elected Man of the Year by General Motors.
Nice.
And I was sent to Detroit with my wife to accept the award. And we had a nice dinner, met with the executive officer of the General Motors Corporation, had a dinner, had a nice ride in the lake up there on one of their yachts.
What did you do at General Motors?
At General Motors, I was supervisor of the computers
Yeah,
system.
that was one of our first men to be with computers in Galway. He knew his computer inside out.
Was that, you worked in Linden? Was that
No, I worked in Clark, New Jersey, and then our plant was taken over by
oh,
the people.
Bendick? Yeah.
General Motors sold it to the people as an employee-owned company.
Yeah, that was Hyatt.
Unfortunately,
That was Hyatt Bering, or
Hyatt Bering.
Yeah, Hyatt Bering.
Unfortunately, the people at that time, or the workers, when there was a profit, they wanted the money. Instead, management felt that we should take those monies that were profit and develop better equipment in the department. And of course, the workers didn't like that, and they slowed down, our profits slowed down, and finally the burning system was moved to Sandusky, Ohio. And the Hyatt plant in Clark was sold. And now it is called Hyatt Hills, a golf course.
Right.
And prior to that, I was, like I said, sent to Detroit to accept the award for Man of the Year by General Motors with my wife. Private flight with our president here at the Hyatt Roller Barons, which was a very nice of them to do.
Well, I guess the other thing too is, didn't we have a celebration for the underpass? I don't remember the...
It was the 50th. Yeah, the 50th anniversary was 2013.
That's right.
You cut the ribbon again.
2013, we had the 50th year celebration of the underpass. Bruce Patterson was in charge of that ceremony, together with Patty Fabio, Carol Lombard, and I forgot the other two people, but
Mayor,
Not Carol Lombard.
Quattrocchi.
Lombardo.
Mayor,
Lombardo.
It's Carol
Yeah,
Lombard.
Oh, I'm thinking of movie star.
Yep,
Mayor
Quattrocchi. It was Mayor Quattrocchi.
Oh,
She was mayor at that point.
right.
She was
Right.
very instrumental and helpful in getting that accomplished.
That's Mayor Tarachi.
Yeah. Actually, it was Ann, right? You're the one that came to the council meeting and asked, right? Was
I
that?
did ask, yes. But it was due to her due diligence and whoever, and then the rest of the people that worked with her that made that happen. So
Right.
it's a good shout out to her, to thank her for that, because that was a nice honor for you, I believe.
It was.
It was.
They installed a rock there with a plaque, and I insisted that all of the mayors who were involved name be put on that plaque as well as mine. It's only fair.
Fair, right. And you was always a fair man, as far as I know, Junior, for a long time, George. And I'm very proud of you, and I want
Thank
to
you, Pat.
congratulate you.
Thank
You
you.
did so much for us in town.
Thank you, Pat. Thank you, Bruce.
And I don't know if there's anything else you want to say.
No, it's fine.
He did a hell of a good job, I'm telling you.
Yeah, not to end on a maybe a down note or so, but you were mayor. Did you step down from being mayor, or did you run and?
No, I stepped down from being mayor, and I tried to run for freeholder, but at that time they had some other. The Union County had some other people trying to run for freeholder at that time, and I was not selected. Someone else was, so consequently I just gave it up, and
You stepped down.
I had enough time. I spent over 9 years in political arena. I wanted to devote a lot of time now to my children.
And in addition to doing everything for us as a family, I believe you still help the town, if I'm correct.
Yes, I was in the town. I was I went to college, Rutgers University, got a tax assessor certificate, certification. I became a tax assessor. I also was a court clerk, assistant court clerk in the borough of Garwood.
Did you work with Mr. Riccardi?
I worked with Miss Warren.
And Mr. Riccardi for the taxes.
Mr. Riccardi was a tax assessor, as well as Mr. Leonard DiStefano.
Right, right.
That's about it.
And the fire department, if I
In the
may
fire
say.
department, I served 25 years. I'm a life member, and I'm presently with the fire department in exempt status.
What do you all do every third Wednesday of the month?
Third Wednesday of the month, we have a little social gathering of the fire department.
We have
Patty Fabio is the head food getter, and we have a little snacks
Make
and
sure we have our
social.
pizza, right?
Anything? Any beer or anything?
Yeah, beer, water, soda, whatever. Social activity. It's good to get together with the older fellas. Hello. Call you back. Call.
That's enough of that.
That's why you were
George,
right,
do
Ann,
you
when you said you
remember
would
who
need
the
that.
first, let's see, Mr. Moscow was the clerk, right, the borough clerk? Andy Moscow,
Phyllis Moan.
no, who was before,
Was Andy Mosca, Phyllis Moan.
who was before Andy Moscow?
I don't remember.
I could
Phil,
tell.
Phyllis Moan
Mr.
just passed away
McManus.
last year.
Mr. McManus, Walter McManus.
That's right.
Right.
That was the first guy, he's helped
Yeah.
me get my property. I remember Tommy Dobb was mayor,
Right.
and he was a good, his son, I don't know if he passed away or not, but he's,
Met his son one time at the Genesis
yeah,
there.
he was one of the patients
Yeah.
with you. I remember
Right.
when I come to see you.
He was there.
He was in the
Yeah.
other room, yeah.
Anything else, Mr. Patterson?
No, that's fine.
Did we cover, I think we covered
Anything else you'd like to add?
Dad,
No.
would you like to end, say anything?
Well, I want to thank
Yeah, you can.
Pat and Bruce for coming to interview me. Hopefully it wasn't too boring.
No.
And thank you, and thank the people of Garwood for the years that they gave me in the governing body. I appreciated every moment of it. Had its ups and it had its downs, like everything else in life. But we have to be able to accept both.
I remember one thing I asked George at the fire meeting. I said, George, what made you get into politics? You were such a good guy. He said, I just did common sense things. That's all you had to do. Remember you told me that?
Yep,
Do common sense things.
common sense.
And that's all you need to be anything, you know. And I was so thrilled about him saying that. It's always stuck in my mind. Just do a common sense thing, and maybe you could be mayor.
I'm not that crazy, but you're.
Thank you so much.
No
again.
problem. Yeah, push the switch.
Thank
Yes, and thank you very much for the public service that you have given
No
Garwood
problem.
all those years. So
It
we
was an
appreciate
honor at
it.
that time, and unfortunately I'm not really up to, moving around real much. That's the reason I was sort of hesitant, but I wanted to do the Historical Society, what they are doing for the town, to try to get some of these things historically assigned and put into the library
I
for
have to say
future
one
people.
thing, one more thing.
All right, go
At
ahead.
his age, the memory he has, it's amazing. It's just like the computers that he used to work with.
Daddy,
Okay.
end on this note. How old are you going to be October 12th this year?
I think I'm going to be 90.
There
Whoa.
you go.
Alrighty, okay, and with that, thank you very much, Mayor Casabona.
Thank you.
Pat and Ann, thank you.
Pat.
Thank you.
Thank you.
She's
Put the-
90 years
Put
old.
the
That's
switch on,
great.
Ann.